Welcome to Speaking Cinema, series movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you with a Guinness in our hands and a sad story in our hearts from a pub in Hollywood, California. Guinness? Guinness or Killen's End for you?
Guinness, all the way.
You don't like a Killen's End?
It's not bad, but it's a little rough.
A little rough?
I like Guinness.
Because it's smooth?
No, it's got some bite to it.
Bite?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You're not a beer drinker.
Oh, I don't drink. So, stay in school, kids. Drink your milk, eat your vitamins, fry your chicken. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Speaking Cinema. Listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. I am your host, Father O Jibber Jabber. With me today, my ever-trusty whiskey-drinking pub dweller, Kevin.
Hi, tight.
That's his bar stool. No one sit on Kev's bar stool. His name is carved into it. It is misspelled.
Well, of course.
This week on the Jibber Jabber, killing a priest on a Sunday, that'll be a good one. In the year of our Lord, 2014, Calvary. Starring Brendan Gleeson, Chris O'Dowd, Kelly Riley, Adrian Gillian, M. Emmett Walsh, and Domhnall Gleeson.
Aiden Gillian.
Yeah, you know what? We're not doing it again.
You bastard.
Aiden Gillian?
You bastard, you.
What is his name?
Aiden Gillian.
Did I say Adrian?
You said, yeah, Adrian.
Oh, my bad.
Aiden.
The least Irish name I fucking don't. Whatever. Written and directed by John Michael Donahue. Produced by Reprisal and Octagon Films. Fox Searchlight. That's who put it out there. Into the world.
Into a grand total of 4 theaters.
But we'll get there. If you're not familiar, after he is threatened during a confession, a good-natured priest must battle dark forces closing in around him.
That's a good setup right there.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, effective, dark.
McDonough, whose brother Martin directed the films In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths, conceived of the idea for this film in 2009 while making his first feature, The Guard. Noticing a glut of films about abusive priests, he wanted to shake it up and tell a story of a good priest. Because you know who's just a fucking petulant underdog in this world? The Catholic Church. I dramatically, I get what he's saying, going against the grain like that, but some of these stories need to be told, homie. Bad things are happening.
I mean, yeah, the bad ones are there, but there's definitely the good ones out there, too.
The film was made primarily in the town of Eaksley, Ireland, and in parts of Dublin, also Ireland. In case you're not familiar with where Dublin is.
Yeah, not Ohio.
Not Dublin, Ohio, nor Dublin, Florida. Dublin, Ireland.
That Dublin.
The role was written for Brendan Gleeson, who also helped McDougall shape the character in the writing process.
Yeah, you've called him McDougall, McDonough, and McDonahue.
Yeah, he's it's like potato, right? You can just do it everywhere you want. Calvary is part of a planned Suicide trilogy from McDonough.
McDonough, exactly.
And Gleeson. So if you like this and The Guard, a third one should be on your way. Any notes on that, Kev?
I'm interested in it. I wasn't a big fan of The Guard, but obviously picked this movie because it's worth talking about.
And nothing has been announced yet, or
nothing, as far as I know, nothing's been officially announced.
Well, Calvary premiered at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival, where it received raved reviews and was quickly picked up for distribution by Fox Searchlight, who likes to go out there and buy things. The way back, bought that. Other movies, buy those too. It played in 4 theaters here in America and ended up grossing $3 million in its run, which is averaging a whopping $18,000 per screen during that said run. Big bucks for a small Irish movie. Better witticisms: Oscar Wilde or Mark Twain?
Mark Twain.
Yeah,
keep it American.
Yeah.
Although Oscar Wilde...
Sorry, Oscar Wilde. Mark Twain fucking...
got some sneaky ones,
Yeah.
but that Mark Twain, he's timeless.
As of this recording, Calvary is not streaming anywhere. It is available for purchase on DVD, Blu-ray, and all major digital platforms. DHD. That's what that's called. So if you want to pick it up, go ahead and do that.
Do it.
You got no excuses. Have you heard of this movie, Kev? Have you seen this movie? Also, Kev.
Yes, I've heard of this movie. Chose it for the podcast.
You did.
Saw it in theaters in one of those 4 screens.
Which screen was that?
The Hollywood ArcLight.
Oh, interesting. In the dome?
It should have been in the dome. That would have been pretty cool. This little Irish. They should do that like once a month. Just play some really small indie movie in the Dome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
They should totally do it.
Disney is already
me and 3 other people in a like 10,000 seat dome.
And Disney has already pulled the Star Wars sequel. If you do that, they're like, no,
don't you dare. It's I'd never heard of it until I went to go see A Most Wanted Man in theaters, and the trailer played before it, and I was like, how have I not heard of this movie? This looks fucking great. And then just really kept my eyes on it. So I was at the Hollywood ArcLight, and that was the only one, so I made the sojourn to Hollywood to go see it. And had a great experience.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of your favorite movies of the year in 2014.
My number 2 favorite film of 2014.
What did it lose out to?
What?
What did it lose out to?
The Grand Budapest Hotel, which is a fantastic film.
So it's interesting.
It's up there. It's that good.
Interesting.
Number 3, Whiplash.
Interesting. I have heard of this movie. I have not seen it. It was very interesting. I wanted to see it, but I think it was it was in theaters.
It was not here long, and I really kept tabs on it. Like, when is this coming out? I want to see it.
Right. So it's interesting that they bought it and then they put it out very. You think it would get like the indie run, but it didn't even get the indie run.
No, and it was in, I believe, summer. It came out, so it wasn't like award season. Mm-hmm. So it kind of came out with little fanfare, which is partly why I wanted to do it on here.
I was curious about it. It's supposed to be a mystery, and I like a good mystery, right?
It's an element to it.
Yeah, right. But it's supposed to be. I believe like the pull quote is like a mystery with a pitch black heart, and I'm like, oh shit,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where are we going with this shit? And so, are you a fan of Brendan Gleeson?
I am. He's just one of those just reliable dudes.
You've described him, and it's been written down here as, quote, a kind of an Alan Rickman, R.I.P., respected and a stately European actor who's not afraid to take roles in big budget Hollywood movies, but also, like a Harry Potter, he was Mad-Eye Moody, but he was also it's kind of smaller fare too.
Yeah, he's in, lots of different stuff, but he'll do, if Edge of Tomorrow needs a general character, he'll go and do it, and it's...
Was he that?
He was in Edge of Tomorrow as a general character.
Interesting.
So, like a military general, not just a general like, oh my god, over there. Because that would just be a waste of his many talents.
People have done a lot more for less.
Yes, they have.
And a lot less for more. Speaking of Harry Potter, who's your favorite Harry Potter side professor? Mad-Eye Moody or Slughorn?
I always had a soft spot for Slughorn, to tell you the truth. Even though he was kind of a dick because he was withholding information to make himself look better. Mm-hmm. But I found him very charming.
I like Mad-Eye Moody, although the reveals in Harry Potter are very, you realize, the whole movie he was not actually himself, he's his son.
That's why I feel a little cheated by Mad-Eye.
And then, spoiler alert,
first one to go in Deathly Hallows.
Yeah. And the rest of them are such dicks. Quibble, fuck Quibble.
Quibble's an asshole.
Oh, and then I guess Sirius Black was pretty bad. No, not Sirius Black. Lupin.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's pretty tight.
But yeah, I was the kind of soft spot.
He could turn into a wolf. His son, Domhnall.
I believe that's how you say it.
Domhnall Gleeson, who also stars in this film, is making a name for himself as well, starring as... he's an episode of Black Mirror. He was in Ex Machina. He is in The Force Awakens, General Huxley.
Hux.
Hux?
Hux.
No.
Hux.
What would you like to see him do next?
I think he could lead a film. He kind of does in Ex Machina, but I feel that's kind of a 3-performance lead. But yeah, I think he could really do his own little Irish film, or he could take on something big budget too.
He was also in Brooklyn, I believe.
I believe so. I think every young Irish actor is in Brooklyn.
That may or may not be true. I don't know.
So yeah, but I think he's already played kind of this big swath of characters, so let him carry a movie, Let him do his own thing. Because Ex Machina is owned by Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, I think that he is good enough to lead his own movie. He's got to find the right thing.
Yeah.
I want it to be like, the Avengers or something, though. I don't want it to be like some small, movie about a man in his butcher shop and fucking blah 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 blah, some boring shit. Fucking get a robot in there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's keep it on this Black Mirror, Star Wars, Ex Machina thing. Let's keep it. Let's go sci-fi.
Go big or go home,
Yeah.
down hall.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
So, Kev, you're a self-proclaiming raving atheist, and you've chosen 2 of fucking religious movies for this podcast: Kingdom of Heaven, Director's Cut, being the first one. See episode 2, I believe.
Yeah, it's one of the early ones.
And as someone who is not religious, why do you care? What attracts you to this?
I think you can explore really interesting stories within the confines of why people have faith. And I think this is one of the best ones justifying the existence of faith and why people have it. And I'm attracted to it because sometimes it's the morbid curiosity of, can I poke as many holes in this as possible and make myself feel better and make me and my fellow atheists feel better? Or am I genuinely going to learn something about why would somebody go down this road?
See, that makes me nervous for this movie because I'm not necessarily interested in seeing a movie about why, faith is a good thing or whatever.
This movie doesn't say it's a good thing. It just shows why somebody.
Okay, that's interesting. All right.
And it's done it in the most believable.
So this is not God's Not Dead.
No.
Or God's Not Dead Part 2.
Yeah, no. It's not.
Kevin Sorbo, you're better than that.
Kirk Cameron did not write this movie.
Oh, he didn't.
So
Interesting.
Now this is a very interesting take on, in a world where we increasingly don't need it, why would anybody stay with it? So yeah, you'll see.
I will see.
It's not jacking off every Catholic belief and saying this is how it should be and everything else is wrong and everything else is evil.
Right.
It explores it in a very realistic way.
That's good. That's good. And because the way you initially said that, plus this dude, the director, trying to be like, oh, not let's show a good priest because the church doesn't never get its due. It's just like, okay, hold on, hold the fucking phone. But okay, I'm back in.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I got nothing else to say about this movie. I've been waiting to see it ever since it came out, and that was
It's
teased.
been on your shelf.
Listen,
I've seen it on the shelf every episode.
We were let's peel back the curtain a little bit. We were gonna do this episode 6.
Yeah.
and now we're on episode 30 whatever. So, something happened in that middle part where we skipped this movie 20 times in a row. So
it's finally getting its due.
It's been in my personal collection for some time now, and I've been waiting for this podcast to see it. I think in our initial conversations about doing the podcast, we were like, we should do Calvary.
Calvary.
And I was like, oh, great, I already have it. I'll let you borrow it, Kev. Oh, you already have it too.
This is one of those day one Blu-rays where I'm like, as soon as this comes out, I'm buying it. It's a great film.
Looking at my shelf now, Speed Racer is another movie that was one of my original ideas for this podcast.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we're doing it, you fucking asshole. We're doing it.
All right.
Someday sooner than you think.
I'll do it. I'll watch it.
It's going to be for our Oscar special.
Why didn't this one get the Oscars?
Yeah. All right.
The Oscar for most colors.
The most colors and the most cars doing loop-de-loops.
Yep.
Here we go.
Here we go.
And we're back.
We're back.
Holy hell. This was a good movie. Calvary.
Yes, it is.
First things first. It's not a whodunit. It's a who's gonna do it.
Yep.
I think you alluded to that earlier. I didn't understand what you're talking about. That's what this movie is.
Yeah, because the mystery isn't... Father James knows who's going to kill him, or who confessed to him.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it's just... How does he go about his week with that specter of death over him the whole time?
Right. And in the opening line, first line, I was 7 years old when I first tasted semen. And then response, startling opening line. And it's like, what
Here we
is
go.
Here we go. But where are we going, Crazy. So yeah, so as Kev just said, the setup is that a man confesses that he was raped by a priest as a child and will he says he's going to kill the priest because he wants revenge because he says the priest is innocent, right?
Well, the priest that raped him is dead.
Yes.
But he said even then, killing him wouldn't mean anything.
Right.
So I need to kill a good priest like you, and that's when people will listen.
So, the question to you is he a good priest?
I think he's shown as one of the more understanding priests in this town. Mm-hmm. Because I think
of the two,
there's the two, and then there's the
bishop.
the bishop, and But he seems to be much more relatable and understanding to the people. He's not trying to change anybody. He's trying to guide them, but he's not saying... I never get the sense that he's like telling them what you're doing is wrong and you need to do this. He's saying like, this is the consequences of the road you're going down, basically. And I think there's a fine line between that
The only time...
and just saying like, this is what you need to do and you're wrong and you're going to go to hell.
He never says anyone's going to go to hell, but he does tell... When he thinks that the black guy punched the woman in the face, he does tell him not to do that again.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert, he didn't do. But that's the only time he ever says... But you're right, though. He's not fire and brimstone. He's much more rooted in reality than what you would think a normal priest would be.
A very telling moment is when there's the younger guy in the bow tie. I forget his name. He's talking about joining the army.
Yeah.
And he says, but like one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill. There's not an asterisk that says, except in this situation. He's like, just don't kill. And then he's like, what about self-defense? And
right.
Goes, yeah, that is tricky.
which is interesting because that's what the movie's about, right? It's like, should he take any actions to defend himself, right? Like, he knows someone's going to kill him. We're kind of cutting to the meat of it here, but so it's in confessional, right? So normally in a Catholic church, what's in the confessional is private, right? You cannot, like, they won't tell cops what is told in a confessional. So, as a cop, you can't bug a confessional. It's illegal.
Yep.
So, but then the bishop's like, but the guy wasn't asking for absolution, so there's no sacrament going on. Sacrament with a capital S. Ergo, you don't owe this guy anything. It's not a sacrament between you, God, and this dude. It's nothing. He just went into the thing and threatened you. So you can tell the cops. He does not tell the cops. And in this moment, it's like, are you going to take any steps to defend yourself? And the answer is no. Or at that point it was no.
Yeah.
Which I think is that scene works great on two different levels like that. The plot of the movie and just a bigger character moment for Milo, which is the character's name, and then on a global commentary mode.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is and I agree with everything you just said, but I ultimately don't know if he's a good priest because he just doesn't give a care about the childhood rapes, and he just doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, when he's first told about this during the confession, he says, I don't know what to say. And it's like, you could say, it's terrible that you were raped by a priest. God doesn't condone that. God still loves you. I believe you. There's a million things you could say, but he doesn't know what to say. And, spoilers for the ending, when he's finally confronted with the dude, as the movie goes on, the church burns down. He's very sad about that. His dog is killed. He's sad about that. The woman gets punched in the face. He's sad about that. But then when his killer says, you're sad about your dog, right? And he's like, yeah, I cried. He's like, did you cry for the fucking children who got raped by priests? He's like, no. He's like, I feel disassociated from that. You know what I mean? And I think that in the beginning half, you gave us a quote that the director says the movie is about a good priest. You know what I mean? And I think it is, but it shows a low bar. I think it's about a good priest in a bad organization, maybe, where it's like the bar is low, right? So it's like he's a good guy, save for the fact that all of the huge problems that are confronted in the world, he has no opinion on, right? So there's a great scene outside of a bar that everyone goes to. It's like a town bar, and the bartender's like, "I'm gonna lose this bar," and he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, like the whole global economic thing. Like the bank got bailed out, but they didn't bail me out. You know what I mean? I'm fucked." He's like, "How come you never talk about that in your sermons?" And the priest doesn't know what to say. And he's like, "You always talk about this, that, and the other thing, but you never talk about how those people fucked us over." You know what I mean? And so it's like, the two big topics here, the priest rape, and the global economic downturn. He's very detached from these things, and it's interesting because he's like, he's critical of morals and not in the way, to clarify, he's not fire and brimstone about it, but he's like, you shouldn't cheat on your husband, you shouldn't punch women in the face, you shouldn't go off in the army and kill people. These are all wrong things to do, but you need to do what's right for you. I'm not going to tell you what's,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what I think, but, it's up to you to make the decision. But, so he's critical of morals so long as it doesn't challenge the system, right? So don't cheat on your wife, but, hey, these bankers fucked you, but, that is what it is. You know what I mean? So I think it's a great criticism of religion, which is religion is an institution that is predicated on conformity, not challenging a system.
And it's kind of a do as I say, not as I do system.
Yes.
Where it's, we're going to tell you how to do it, but we get away with this shit all the time because it benefits us.
Right.
But don't you dare do it, because you'll realize it benefits you, and then you won't need us anymore.
And despite all of that, the main character priest is still super charming and human. You know what I mean? And you're rooting for him. And, spoilers for the end of the movie, but when he's killed, I'm like, what?
Yep.
I want a sequel to this movie where he solves a different crime. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy that, like, you can see this character as being so flawed in his worldview, right? Where he only looks into his town, but he doesn't really have a view outside of it. You know what I mean? He doesn't, these bigger things, he can't even deal with them.
It's just not his concern.
Right.
Well,
but also
it's not what his main purpose in life. It's this town he's kind of dedicated himself to it.
But I think the movie is critical of him being like that because his daughter criticizes him. He's like, Mom died, and then you just turned into yourself and turned into a priest and came to this town and became the town's priest. And it's like, I needed you then, like, and you were gone. And I think that's his thing, is that he turns inward as opposed to outward.
Yeah.
And inward includes his own town.
Yep. Yeah, it's he's by no means a perfect person.
No.
Absolutely not.
Right.
He's a recovering alcoholic and falls off the wagon at one point. Mm-hmm. Shoots a gun at the bar.
Yeah, that's a crazy scene.
People.
That's a crazy scene.
And yeah, he is by no means perfect, but he's doing what he thinks is best for his constituents in this town. And it's a fine line to walk.
Yeah, it's nutty. it's I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a great movie. Like, it's a great to show a character that's flawed but still likable in the way that they do it here, and a priest who is like, like, do you want to watch a movie about a priest? Like, no. But
it sounds like your average Academy fodder and just like boring Oscar bait, But this movie it's got an edge to it. Mm-hmm. This is a tale of just like the darkness of humanity in many ways, shapes, and forms. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily bad per se.
Right.
Like, it's not saying these people are wrong, or this movie never passes judgment, I don't think.
I think it does, but it's not, it passes judgment, but everyone has their own perspective, right? So, and I think a lot of people pass judgment on the priest, right? Like, yeah. And I mean, that's something we can get into, like,
I mean, again, and is there judgment against him, or is it against the institution of Catholicism in general?
It's both, right? I mean, it depends on who you're talking about. There's a little girl walking near the beach, and and her dad freaks out that he's walking near her, and talking to her. And I mean, that's the church, right? But then everyone, and also this town is just full of fucking dicks. They're so rude. But like, like his church burns down and people laugh at him. They're like, I bet they're going to suspect this guy, huh?
Yep.
You racist old coot. Walk away. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
It's a very Irish way of dealing with things. Mm-hmm. It's you kind of dwell on the bad things, but you don't dwell on it in a sad way. It's like, that's life, have another pint of Guinness. It's like, that's just a very Irish mindset.
Right.
Too. And laughing at a priest as his church burns down, pretty fucked up.
Right. But then you get someone like Milo who really wants the priest's help, you know what I mean? And then you get a character like the doctor who you think is like they have a relationship that's like, contentious but whatever. But then the doctor tells that horrible story, and it's just like I don't know, man. They just all kind of hate each other.
Yep. It's a town that's beyond saving, and somehow that's okay, I think. Like, it's not saying anything's wrong with it, and it's never going to be perfect. But like, for this little town, that's just the way it functions. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just dysfunctionally.
It functions dysfunctionally, but it functions.
I want to get into the mystery here, right? The who's gonna do it. One, I had no fucking idea who's gonna do it until it's even when they show him walking on the beach. I'm like, wait, who is that?
Yep.
and then you see him and you're like, oh, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I was because I think in the opening they use a different actor.
They do.
Yeah, they use a completely different actor to do the voice of it. So it's not Paul O'Dowd's voice, and it's generic enough that it could be the Doctor, it could be, it could be Paul O'Dowd. It's definitely not the guy from the Ivory Coast, the African guy.
Right.
But it gives you enough vagaries of like, this could be anybody in this town. I mean, the shot after the opening credits. So after the opening credits, it's they immediately go to the Sunday service, and he's basically going through the constituents, and this is like, okay, these are the players, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, a brilliant way to show that. This movie's very subtle in its setups and like its backstory. Nothing's ever really forced and cloying. His past, the relationships in the town, who these people are, what they do, it just does it in these really subtle, brilliant ways. And yeah, everybody taking communion, it's like these are your suspects, basically. Now who's it gonna be?
Right. And I feel like, especially on that first watch through, they never tip your hat.
No.
They never tip it. But it makes, knowing the faith in getting a sense of that character, it makes sense, right? Because I think you could be critical of this. If you were to be critical of this, you'd be like, why did he stick up for himself? You know what I mean? He's being threatened with death. But somehow, some way, they kind of make it all make sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know. It's just really interesting how it's like you can see that he kind of has a death wish, that he's not super happy, but like...
But maybe this is his one chance to really absolve anybody, especially himself.
Well, but there's a Catholic... Listen, I spent 10 years going to Catholic school and being involved in whatever, right? But like, I never really understood the concept of dying for your sins.
Yep.
Honestly. People have tried to explain it. People have tried to explain it nicely. People have tried to explain it being frustrated that I didn't get it. I just don't really get it. It's just like, you persecuted me, and then I will die and that absolve. It just doesn't jive with me, man.
Well, I mean, it's that root of just, Jesus died for everybody's sins, so they say. And it's, that's kind of the root of all Catholic guilt, basically, is that you get to live your life because he died. Or God was going to kill everybody, I think. Is that the story?
No, but there's no apocalyptic element to the story.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like he had to sacrifice himself. And where was Jesus sacrificed? In Calvary. And that's where this movie gets its name.
Because in the end, he does sacrifice himself for this guy's rage. But what do you make of that ending? To what point was that?
I mean, what's interesting, watching it, this is probably the 4th or 5th time I've seen it.
There's a lot of times to watch this movie.
It's
but it is an entertaining watch. It goes quick, very well paced, and very funny.
It has some great dark humor in it, and one of the darkest being right before he's killed, and he's like, "Why'd you kill my dog?" He's like, "I didn't kill your dog. Your dog died? That's sad." He's like,
"I love dogs. Why would I hurt a dog?"
Yep. It's like just those little charged funny moments.
Yeah, that was
on
great.
top of a million others that we'll get into.
That's great.
But so like the beach was his Calvary, basically, where he's gonna sacrifice himself in a thought being that maybe we can redeem somebody. And then it immediately follows with what everybody's doing the moment he's killed. And like Emmett Walsh's character is having a popsicle.
Yeah.
Milo goes to the army. The Doctor puts his cigarette out in what looks like a liver.
Yes. The promiscuous woman and the black guy are hanging out in bed.
Mid-coitus.
The male prostitute is just kind of contemplating something.
Leo.
The town sheriff is counting some money or looking at some money.
Yeah. The prisoner is getting beaten. Domhnall Gleeson's character.
And the priest is reading about atheism.
He's reading the God Delusion.
Yeah.
So, yeah. His former priest, who he forced out by threatening him physically.
Well, yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of showing some things change and yet nothing's gonna change. But then that's not the crux of the movie. It's the ending of this movie. Where it's obviously sometime after this has happened. Paul O'Dowd's character is in jail. We're in a visitation area of a jail, and the priest's daughter comes to visit him, played by Kelly Riley. And right before he was killed, he called his daughter in London, and she asked him, like, what virtues do you think are really important? You know, something along those lines. And he says, I think forgiveness is underrated. Or undervalued. And now, all of a sudden, she's there, facing the man who killed her father, who she loved, you know, and cared about, and then she breaks down crying, and then the movie stops. And it's, you know, that's the crux of the movie. It's not being, can you be better or more saintly or anything like that. I think it's, can you forgive people's flaws? And I think that's the real crux.
Interesting. And you think that he's trying to teach her, because his daughter comes to visit town. She has attempted suicide. And they kind of speak to her having been depressed in the past as well.
She definitely has issues.
And so do you think that he's trying to... He's like, you have to forgive not only me, but yourself and this guy who did this, who murdered me?
Who, you know, we can... I don't want to say it's a valid reason, but he had a reason to do it. Mm-hmm. And he's also in pain. You know, you're not the only... Pain is not just central to you.
Right.
It's a universal thing. You know?
There are 4 noble truths in Buddhism. I don't remember 3 of them. Didn't really catch my eye. But the one that really stick with me is that everyone suffers. Suffering is universal. Mm-hmm. And that's like, So it's like, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, Paris Hilton, she doesn't suffer. It's like, Paris Hilton suffers. You suffer. The homeless guy suffers. The rich man suffers. Everyone suffers.
You know, it's...
Not equally, but everyone does suffer.
I think... I don't know if I've said it on this podcast before, but one of my favorite quotes is from Jim Carrey. And he talks about... He said, I wish everybody on this planet could get all the money so that they could buy anything they want, so that they would realize that that's not the answer. Mm-hmm. And like that to me is like, yeah, it's your fulfillment is going to come from other places, and it's not just money, it's not just status, it's not just owning stuff. It's like everybody, suffering is universal. Everybody does it, and it's up to you to solve it, basically. And so the last 5 minutes of this movie show that, you know, he was, you know, Father James was killed. Life kind of goes on, but can we all forgive each other for our many, many flaws that we have and just realize that we're all human?
Right.
And it's, I mean, this movie never fails to choke me up in that last scene. Mm-hmm. Like, I always have tears in my eyes at the end of it. So it's extremely powerful.
It is it definitely is powerful. It's very Catholic in that, like, I have to die for you to learn a lesson.
Yeah, but then some people don't learn a lesson,
right?
You know, like that we know of. Mm-hmm. Milo goes to the army, even though he told him don't go to the army.
Right.
And Emmett Walsh is just having his popsicle. You know, the world didn't change just because he died.
Right.
You know, but it's, you know, we're always going to be flawed, and will we ever get to a point where we can just forgive? You know, and I think that's one of the hardest things of all.
And also another very striking scene here is I think the father's yelling at someone, and he says, it might be the doctor. He says, "Faith is just the fear of death and nothing else," which is a very, like, for a priest to say is like, it's kind of deep. You know what I mean? I remember I was in high school and post 9/11, obviously, and the school's priest was given we had an outdoor mass, which, you know, like,
yeah,
it's all God's house. So the priest is like, does God exist? You know, in the sermon, and there's these I don't know. This is a weird event. I was like, there's like parents here for some reason. So these mothers next to me were like, yes, and then he for effect he's like, does God exist? And he's like, yes. Girls, come on, like, say yes. You know, like they're trying to get their kids to that crazy Catholicism that's just like it's like manic. You know what I mean? And then he's like, sometimes I don't know. And these women were like, you could see the steam just, you know, like
triggered.
It was like the wolf in the Looney Tunes, you know what I mean? Where they're like the eyes bug out, you know, like right when the train comes, you know. And he's like, yeah, like, how can you believe in a forgiving God when 9/11 happens? How can you believe in a forgiving God when you see all the crazy shit in the world, right? And the guy, you know, he bent it back to obviously being pro God, but like, in that moment, those women were like flabbergasted, you know what I mean? And it kind of speaks to that idea that it was like, what is your faith? Is it real or is it what you want it to believe? Now, obviously, if you're a priest, you eventually come back to saying it's a real thing. Yeah. But it's interesting that I feel like when you think of a priest, you don't think of someone who has this level of like intellectual questioning
and this level of world weariness
right.
that he has, because he's, you know, he has a daughter, so obviously he had a wife, so he wasn't always a priest.
Mm-hmm.
He's a recovering alcoholic. You know, there's that great scene. His buddy priest is like, "Do you know what felching is, Father?" And he's like, I know what felching is.
I had to look it up.
It's, you know, he's a man of the world. He's
mm-hmm.
not just this insular Catholic guy.
Mm-hmm.
The priesthood was just an outlet for him when his wife passed away. So.
Also, that lady, man.
Which lady?
She's wild. The promiscuous one.
Oh, the town doorknob?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if she's... I mean, there's one thing to be promiscuous, but it's another thing, like...
She's very open about it.
I mean, she's open about it, and, like, you know, she's not afraid to just, you know, presumably Google up some crazy shit and just give it a shot.
Yep.
So the killer, then, let me say this, it was the butcher character, right? He's... When we first see him, he's the promiscuous man's wife. And watching the special features, they kind of go into it like she is promiscuous because he is numb. You know, he is like, you know, he's fucked up emotionally and numb, and it's getting worse or whatever. So the idea is that she acted out sexually, and then it kind of, you know, boils over where she's like in terms of what she's doing, like in his face. You know what I mean? Like, you know, she's like very. She doesn't hide the fact that she's doing it, you know what I mean? Is because, you know, she's acting out. I think what she's doing isn't acting out, because I think the things that, like, you know, that they allude to her being into, one has to intrinsically be a kinkster in that way. You can't just, like, you know...
Yeah, it's born in you. Basically.
Right, you know what I mean? If you want to be slapped in the face, it's like, I don't think you could just, you know, casually one day... be like, you know what, I want some heavy BDSM. Yeah. It's like, you know, that's kind of like, it's probably in you somewhere, you know what I mean?
You gotta work towards that.
Right. But what's interesting is that, like, they're in the pub, and the fucking dude is, like, playing chess with the guy who's fucking his wife, and he doesn't care. Yep. You know what I mean?
He knows it's happening.
Right, he tells the wife, he tells the priest, he's like, it's easier this way. Yep. You know what I mean? And then he does admit to punching her, but I think it's because, from what they say in this behind the scenes, like, she's like, don't you care about a thing, and then he gets frustrated because he doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's and again, it kind of flies in the face of the traditional values that are so often pushed by Catholicism. It's mm-hmm. like, you should be devoted to your wife and not sleep around. You know, obviously, no adultery is a commandment, and it's like the modern world just doesn't work that way. And for some people, that's how their relationship works. You know, it's how they function. And it's, you know, it's like these ideas are antiquated. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something Father James is struggling with, is like trying to adapt this into a real world scenario that people can understand. So, yeah, my little commentary.
Yeah, it's a really, really like, I don't know, man.
It's deep in a way that's not forced at all. It's
right.
not always going like, oh, this is so important, like so many movies like this do. It's just very brilliantly woven into what seems like an everyday story. Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of, if it wasn't for the murder plot, it would just kind of be one of these like slice of life movies that come out every now and then.
But it's better because there is a murder plot.
Because there is a murder plot driving it, you know, and it gives a lot of purpose instead of just being like, I just want to make a movie that's real, man. It's like, it feels more real, you know, even with this plot that may or may not ever happen, but it's actual issues told.
And being a genre movie, you heighten the interest because it's a movie.
Exactly. It's a movie plot.
Yeah.
So.
With the background of reality.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's great. Who do you think killed the dog?
I cannot figure out who killed the dog. I think maybe the black guy did. But that's like, but why would he... up until that one point where he has the confrontation with him, they never really have another moment of like altercation.
I think the only person that makes sense is the bar owner. Well, maybe the black guy, because it's either the black guy or the bartender, because they're the ones who get in the fist fight at the bar.
True.
Because he threatens them with a gun. He shoots up the bar.
Yep.
And then he takes out the baseball bat, and then they have a row. But like, it has to be one of those two guys, because no one else really has that much personal stuff.
I mean, Dylan Moran's character, the rich guy, he's not a big fan of the priest, but you don't get the sense that he would ever do something that drastic.
But that's the thing, that his problem is that he has no motivation. I don't think that he'd be up for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it obviously wasn't M. Emmett Walsh, the writer.
Nah, he's too busy getting ice cream.
Yeah, he's too busy. He's drinking his Maker's Mark and looking for a Walther PPK. It's not the police chief, because what would he benefit from doing that?
Yeah, he didn't give a shit.
And I think it's interesting that the movie leaves that open-ended. And yeah, you just assume, like he does, that it was the person that threatened him, and this is just an additional threat he's putting on him. But then it twisted around. He's like, I would never kill a dog. What are you talking about? I love dogs. Yeah. So, it's a bold choice to just not ever say who killed the dog.
But it feels masterful to me. It feels great.
Oh yeah, it's hard to believe this is this guy's second movie.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even a big fan of his first movie, The Guard. I thought it was kind of like a bad Guy Ritchie knockoff.
Interesting.
I kind of felt like Guy Ritchie and Quentin Tarantino tried to make a British like goofy crime thriller, and it just didn't. I don't know. I didn't like it very much.
Yeah.
And yet, his second movie, he comes out with this. Holy shit, I mean, this movie, like you say, it's masterfully written, performed, directed, shot, scored. It's absolutely brilliant.
So let's get into that a little bit. What do you think the movie has to say about the role of faith in society?
Kind of what I was talking about earlier, of the ideas, while they're noble, they're antiquated. And they just don't fit in with a lot of modern personalities and thought and style, and it's kind of getting pushed out,
But then in the end, he does it though. He gets killed, and to teach his daughter, and I guess presumably his killer, a lesson. I
don't know is he doing it to teach a lesson?
I don't know.
I think he's doing it. I think he allows himself to get killed to give him some kind of closure, because it's obvious that Butcher Guy is not. He's dead set on killing him, and that's the only thing that's gonna bring him what he needs in life. It seems. So if he can be that vessel, then that's it. But is he intrinsically trying to teach his daughter forgiveness? No, but I think it's just a universal thing that he wants the world to understand. I don't think it's this elaborate scheme to teach his daughter how to forgive.
Can you see the beauty in everything, or is that nonsense?
It's hard to say.
I think you can, if you're divorced from something personally, yes, right? Like, we can look back on history, which at the time would be like pirates, right? Like we glamorize pirates now because it's funny. Like these guys, they had peg legs and parrots and stuff. It's like these were like murderers, rapists, like terrors. You know what I mean? They're terrorists of their era. It's like, but now they're charming because they had one eye because they had lost it playing a game of cards in a port. Yar.
But yeah, it's.
There's that great line though where he's like, "You can see beauty in most things, but not everything." That's nonsense.
And again, it's like it's all about perspective, and sometimes there's the famous quote, the Titanic sinking was a miracle for the lobsters in the kitchen.
Yes.
It's like for some people, maybe in their own twisted way, something could be beautiful that we all perceive as tragic.
Well, but then you make a movie about this tragedy, and that movie is beautiful, right?
Yep.
So the reflection of the actual event is beautiful. The actual event is ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We find poetry in the reflection of the event. And then also, fucking the Titanic.
The event itself is despicable. It's
right.
like, should a priest need to get killed to teach somebody forgiveness? No, we should just, if we're good enough sentient creatures, we should understand that. But that's just not how the world works.
Right. The French woman whose husband dies, this is the most surreal part of the movie. She is in a horrific car accident with her husband. She is fine. The husband is killed. Right, drunk driving accident. She is very nonplussed about him being dead. And the movie feels very real, but there are moments that are surreal, and this is one of them, where it's like, she's okay with it. She's like, I loved him, and that's all that matters. But there's some people who can't love, and I feel sorry for them. And it's like, what do you make of that whole thing?
I mean, that's just, this movie's very Irish. That's a very French way of looking at things. Where it's like, hey, you fucked up, you died. That's life. You move on. And again, in a faith, I think that almost romanticizes death. To the point where their idol was killed for everybody else's sins, and that death is this huge thing. It's like it happens every day. People die every single day, and we're all gonna die someday. Spoiler alert: we're all gonna die.
Yeah, spoilers for life.
Spoiler alert for our own life.
But that's, I mean, because tonally, that moment doesn't feel crazy. It fits into the tone of the movie, right? Literally, it's like, wait, how can you be so calm right now, right? And that's an interesting way of looking at it. That it fits into the what's going on thematically more than a literal truth of how someone would feel if their loved one was dead.
And again, there's no one mold for everybody to get into. It's yes, if you lost your significant other in a car crash, you might react differently. But for this woman, she has perspective of like, again, I loved him and we were together, and that's all that mattered. And it's I did my part, and it was gonna happen someday or later. It just happened to happen today.
There's not really a question here, but I do want to just put out that the movie is very critical of the church. Like, the cop guy, he busted, when he was working in the city, he busted a priest for being a molester, and then he's like, I got moved to this city, I got downgraded, and he got sent off to Africa where he could just do whatever he wants. Like, the movie is not like a pro-Catholic kind of a thing, you know what I mean?
I don't think it's pro-religion. I don't find it to be anti-religion. I just think it puts it in a perspective.
It's not anti-faith, it's I do think it's anti-church, though.
Yeah, I think it's anti, because as I've said a couple times, the teachings of the church are just outdated with today's society.
Right. Okay, so here's another scene. Not as crazy as the French one, but it's another one that you're like, what is this doing here? So, James and the serial killer from prison, father and son acting moment between Brendan and Domhnall Gleeson. What do you make of this? So go ahead.
So this character is a convicted cannibal, murderer.
He rapes women. He raped a couple. I think he had 6 victims or something.
Yeah.
Or 6, and they can't. He hasn't told them where the 6th one is. The body that was left of her. But he rapes, kills, and then eats them.
Yep.
In that order.
You'd hope in that order.
Well, if
let's just
personally, I would hope for the death first. But go on.
So when he's going into the prison and he tells people, I'm going to go see this character, don't remember his name, they immediately are just like disgusted.
Yeah.
And they're just like, why would you even
go visit him?
Why would you even talk to this guy? He's a criminal. He's a disgusting person. He's like, for Father James, everybody gets their fair shake. Everybody gets a chance. And I think that's his ultimate goal. Not ultimate goal, but
that's his goal.
He just wants to give this guy a voice somehow and try and figure out if there's a way to save this guy, And I think he ultimately determines no, or that he just can't help him, or that the guy doesn't want to help himself. But again, another role in the role of faith in society, where is everybody worth saving, and is. This guy is obviously presented as the worst of the worst in a town where there's the promiscuous lady, many drunks, the atheist doctor who doesn't care about anything. This guy is the worst, And it's the complicated question is there a point of no return? Is there anybody that can't be saved? And this guy is about as close as it gets. And does he save him? We don't really know. We see him the last time we see him, he's getting his ass kicked in prison. So, I don't know. It's another little interesting detour in this film where they don't answer a ton of questions, but it still ties into the themes in a really interesting way.
So my last question here: this is a phenomenal movie. When we're coming up into Oscar season, why didn't it get any Oscar buzz last year?
Because it played in 4 theaters.
And I
I
think
think hardly anybody saw it. I mean, you never even heard of it. Right?
no, I had heard of it.
Like, yeah, you had it on your shelf.
Yeah, because in my circles of movie nerddom, I think this movie was championed by some critics. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting it, but it's I don't think it was promoted. You know what I mean? It wasn't. Searchlight put it out, and they got, as of going into Oscars 2016, they have 4 movies nominated. Right, Brooklyn, Martian, which is a big Fox. But whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Was Room one of them?
That's A24.
Okay.
Revenant and Bridge of Spies were the other 2. So Martian, Brooklyn, Revenant, Book of Spies, Bridge of Spies. So I don't know. I mean, they're good at promoting Oscar-y movies, right? They've won the last 2 years in a row. 12 Years a Slave, and what was before that?
Argo?
After Argo. And then Birdman was last year, and then 12 Years a Slave was the years before. So they know how to promote movies. They've won 2 years in a row. They've won a bunch of other times. So I don't know why this movie didn't get the love. It didn't get the push. You know what I mean? But it's a great fucking movie.
It came out in the summer, I remember.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, and just kind of limited release. Like I said, I hadn't heard of it until about 2 weeks before it came out when I saw that trailer before Most Wanted Man. And I was like, this movie looks fantastic. I need to go see it. And it is everything that should be an awards contender, and yet somehow it got completely forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't even. I don't even think it got nominated for Best Foreign Film. It's a brilliant story, and it's the if No Country for Old Men can win Best Picture, this can win Best Picture. And should be in the conversation.
Yeah,
with it, so.
No campaign. It seems. You know what I mean?
I mean, it was just one of those little movies that. I don't want to say it got forgotten because there are the critics out there who are like, dude, Calvary is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little hidden gem. But yeah, somehow it just didn't. That word of mouth, it's tricky. It doesn't. It's not always going to get traction. You never know what's going to just strike at the right time.
Is there any cool moments that you want to, or nitpicks you want to highlight? Nitpicks first?
Cool moments. His line, he goes, I think she's bipolar, or is it lactose intolerant?
The movie's funny.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's lots of great funny moments.
My life is an affliction. That line sounds witty, but it makes no sense. The priest just like, fuck you.
Yep.
And then my favorite one was, so you see beauty in everything. He's like, you can see beauty in most things, but not everything. That's nonsense.
Yep.
Just flatly just like, no.
Yep.
No.
I really love the scene when the rich guy, Dylan Moran's character, is like, I want to make a donation to the church. And the other priest immediately is like, oh my goodness, yes, thank you so much. Like, it just immediately perks up the idea of money. And then Brendan Gleeson, challenges him. He's like, make it 50. Like, you just went on this whole screed that you don't care about anything and pissed on a priceless painting in front of me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't care. Make it 50. Fuck you. And he's like, why not 100? Just do it.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's another challenging of faith norms and societal norms because you're supposed to be kind of modest, but he's like, fuck it, you don't care and you have more money than you know what to do with. Why are you gonna cheap out on me with 50 grand when I know you can afford 100 grand? So I mean that's a really cool scene too. Like it a lot.
I like how the black guy flicks his cigarette at the priest when he gets dismissive about racism, because hey bro.
Yep.
Oscar so white.
Yep.
Hashtag. And Mad Eye Moody, he's just a watchable actor, man.
Brendan Gleeson he's good in everything. Mm-hmm. He's the Stanley Tucci of Irish actors.
Agreed. Also, I like how the exposition is hidden with humor. So it's like, this is my daughter, and it's like, how do you have a daughter? It's like, because and then they make jokes about so you were, you weren't a priest, and you are, you know what I mean? That whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's done really well.
And that whole exposition done extremely efficiently, and with a nice little dollop of humor. Mm-hmm. I like Milo's line where he goes, he's like, you can't get laid and you're suicidal, and he goes, maybe I'm just bored.
And then, oh, good.
For some reason, I really like the surfers in the opening, and then they actually kind of pay that off by saying there was some legend about a god splitting a rock, and that's why the waves are good in this little island. So I don't know, it's just kind of a surreal moment to be like these big Irish landscapes, and then there's dudes surfing.
And then they bring that home. You know what I mean? It makes it feel like a real place.
Yep.
And it's like you could have just had surfers on the beach when they were on the beach, but it's like you see them in the beginning, it's not acknowledged, and then later it's paid back.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like that's like a thing it's a thing to remember when we're trying to make something. It's like show something, don't talk about it, later bring it back up.
You know, and there's the boy is drawing a picture on the beach, and he has the two people in there, and he says, "Who are these guys?" And he's like, "I'm not sure who they are. Maybe they're just ghosts or something like that." And then later he's drawing again, and that's when the moment happens, and that's the two guys on the beach. You know, it's one of those things. Like you said, it sounds like it means a lot, but maybe it doesn't. But it just kind of ties everything together. You know, it just makes the story a whole.
Yeah.
Those little moments, those little flourishes.
I like the rapport between the father and daughter, triple great.
Yep.
And the ensemble cast is also great.
It's a good looking apple she's eating when she's reading H.P. Lovecraft.
Always.
Bruno's a good dog. Rest in peace, Bruno.
Yeah. Also, the fact that he's like, how long was I out? She's like, you've been out for eons, because she's reading H.P. Lovecraft.
Yep.
It's always about eons. Great.
And his he always wanted a red convertible, and he got like a shitty Volvo. You can only afford so much on a priest salary.
Indeed. Nitpicks. Couldn't understand the accents. They're all great. Had to turn on the subtitles.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that there was a few moments where I was like, I bet old Mr. Jibber Jabber might need subtitles.
I did. Also,
it is a swath of Irish accents.
Speaking of Irish accents, the doctor story about the deaf child, this straight up gave me anxiety. I was like, that is a horror story.
Which story was that? The kid who becomes deaf.
Yeah.
And
goes in for a surgery. He's over anesthetized. Then he's mute, deaf, and unable to, so he can't hear or scream, and he can't he's stuck in his own body.
Dark.
Also, having to call a person father is gross. It's like, well, what should I call you? Call me father.
Yeah.
What?
It's a weird formality that has proceeded for aeons.
Right. Aeons and aeons. It's like no other. It's like it's just weird. Like, yeah, you refer to me as your father. Like,
yep.
No, I think I'm okay. You could be Father Bob. You'll just be Bob.
Yep. Priest life looks pretty easy in that little town, though. You just go visit a few people, and then you get to go fly fishing.
Yeah, well, then you get murdered, and your fucking church gets burned down. It's not great.
I didn't say it was perfect. I said it looked all right.
Any theories or sequel ideas?
Yeah, the only, I think, loose end is who killed the dog, and I kind of expunged on that. Sequel ideas, I don't want to see a sequel.
I mean, it'd be very difficult.
It'd be very difficult. I mean, how can you have it without Brendan Gleeson? Mm-hmm. He's dead, everybody. I would like to have it for him to have lived, and then we could have gotten more of these stories, but it wasn't to be. Also, I read a theory online that he's going through the stages of grief, which explains a lot of his behavior. I don't know if that's true. I gotta watch it again to kind of see that, but anger, denial, and all that shit. But I don't know. He seems to go through anger very late in that movie.
I think anger's one of the earlier ones. I don't know if that really tracks.
Yep.
But I don't know. But in the end, usually I ask, do you like this movie? Would you recommend it? And I have to say, tremendously to both.
Yep.
Because it's super realistic, but somewhat surreal. It's funny, but it's dramatic. It's a mystery, but there's a lot going on. It's just, I don't know, man. It's a high benchmark of cinema.
Yep. It's just it's a genre movie, but that seems to do it a disservice, calling it a genre movie. It's one of...
But it shows you the best way to do a genre movie.
Yeah.
That's the framework for all the stories and themes we want to explore.
Yep.
And
it's the perfect setting, perfect cast. This movie I I couldn't picture it taking place in like New York or something.
Well, no, if they were to
like
remake
New York suburb or whatever, New Jersey. Or,
yeah, I mean, I guess if you're gonna remake it, you would put it in a small town in America.
Yeah.
Any sleepy kind of small town, I guess, right?
Yeah, where it's nowhere near any big city. It's a close-knit community, and yeah, there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 priests that people console in, you know, and it's... But, again, I feel like this movie has a very Irish mindset, and the Irish setting works for it very well. Especially with that mountain in the background that's always looming, and that's just the looming specter of death that is on his shoulders.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's an excellent film. Criminally underseen. Everybody should see it.
Yeah, underrated. Everyone go out and overhype this thing.
Yep.
So...
This might be one of those movies that down the road it gets a little reevaluated.
I hope so. I hope it gets gets a midnight screening at the New Bev or something.
Yeah, like Big Lebowski did in its day. And Shawshank Redemption, movies like that, where it's these great little stories that maybe the time they got released, it got maybe lost in the shuffle, or just, again, there was lack of promotion, people just didn't see it, and then maybe it kind of starts picking up, and people go, wait a minute, this is exactly the movie I've been looking for. You know? I hope that happens.
I do too.
I have faith.
Kev, you wrote this episode. Host, me, Mr. Jibber Jabber. Also hosted by you, Kev.
Me.
Music by Jeff Russell. Check us out, social media. Check us out, iTunes and stuff. Check us out. If you're curious, hit us up. If you want to, listen to us. It's mandatory.
Do it.
Say 5 Hail Marys and fucking listen to our podcast. Keep the faith, listeners. Until next time.
Go on.
No, that's it. Keep the faith until next time.